Welcome back, Warren.
Thank you. My pleasure.
If you could just quickly share with us about how one should buy a guitar when somebody's starting off as a student, because there are many people
Right.
who just walk into a shop
Mm-hmm.
without a clue.
Right.
They say, I want to do guitar
Mm.
classes, but they have no idea as to what guitar to buy, what
Right.
brand,
Yeah.
what price range, etc., etc.
Well, it's either your acoustic guitar or electric guitar. The acoustic guitar is make sure you've got the strings are not really too old and all, otherwise you won't really be able to to judge.
But it's a brand new guitar they're buying even then.
Yeah, sometimes like the guitars have been lying out, and the strings. So if you can ask them politely, can you just put on a newish set of strings, and then you make sure that at least your hand feels nice on the neck. It's the because necks come in different shapes and sizes, so it's like your hand also is unique. So the shape of your hand kind of has to fit the neck, and
What is
that's
the ideal fit? Like this?
it's just you'll know it, like if it fits in properly. See, because like see the shape of my hand, it just goes around this neck like that. Now I've kind of gotten used to accommodating it, but at least I'm saying like the basic action. You're not pressing down too hard and stuff like that. Because I think also if you're just started playing guitar, you won't have what most of us who've been playing for a while have got calluses
For
on
sure.
these parts of our fingers here. It's basically just dead skin that's been built up to a point where you can fret like a string really hard and
Doesn't
bend
hurt you?
it. It
Doesn't
doesn't
hurt.
hurt at all. But when you just start playing, it will hurt. So maybe if like a steel string guitar is, like cutting on your fingers too, you may want to just see if a nylon string guitar will. Because if it's going to be really uncomfortable over time, it will just put you off. You won't really, you know, find the thing that, okay, I'm just going to pick it up and play for 3 hours today. That's not going to happen if it's really uncomfortable. So, like, say you've gone on from, you've been playing a while and you want to get a decent electric. Um, the main thing for me, at least, when I look for a guitar, is it stays in tune. It's very important. It stays in tune. And the intonation of the guitar, which means like you play one chord and it's in tune, and then you go somewhere else and it's out of tune. That needs to be set from most electric guitars. Like this has got these screws here, so make sure that intonation at least is set up properly. And you can do it if you've got a tuner, a decently accurate tuner. Is you check your harmonic here, yeah, and you fret the string, and both these two notes have to show up exactly the same on the tuner.
Can you do it again?
Yeah, if you play the string and then if you fret it here, and there's a disparity, that means the intonation needs some looking at. So it's probably these screws. You know, if you just Google how to set up intonation, you find a lot better. And also like the guitar itself needs to be somewhat resonant. So one of the tricks I read is if you hold the guitar like this and you play this, I'll turn the volume off. You play the B string here and you hold the body here, you should still feel some resonance. Like these strings will make the body vibrate pretty easily, but it's like these guys here, you should still feel some resonance, because what happens is that when the string vibrates, the vibration feeds back into the body, and then because of the body vibrating, it feeds back into the string again. So it's kind of like amplifying the vibration of the string, and the better a guitar does that, the better it's going to sound plugged in, into an amplifier. At least with set, like a lot of sometimes I'll just sit down and I'll just play unplugged, and if you can get a good sound out of it without having to rely on all this, um, it's actually going to serve you better in the long run.
On electric.
Yeah, just sit and play unplugged, because I mean if it's not too noisy, you can, at least for yourself, you can. And also, like, some people like really light strings and like having the action set up really close by this, so you can get away with playing faster, I guess. For me, I just like a slightly heavier gauge, at least 10s or 11s, and a decent amount of action, just so your strings are not going when you play them, because that's like no amount of processing or all the gear in the world is not going to be able to help you if it doesn't sound good from the guitar itself. On the other hand, you can just get by with decent guitar, decent amplifier. If it's set up well and you've learned your technique well enough to get a good sound out of the guitar. it's gonna sound better than 3 million plugins or Axe effects or whatever. So it's kind of just start with basics and get that. Basically learn to walk before you start running and flying. Um, and with regards to theory, you probably don't really need to you know go hardcore into it unless you maybe want to start playing jazz. But there's a couple of things which at least my dad showed me how chords are constructed, and I'll just give you a very quick lesson. Now, if you take your scale, which I guess everybody knows. So now, if you number these notes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Now, what you need to do is take 1, 3, and 5. 1, 3, 5. Okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And your 8 is going to be the same as your 1, just an octave higher, which is why it's called an octave. So now you learn 1, 3, and 5 of your major scale for every single note. So you got that in your C, and your D is, your E is F, G, A, whatever. Then what you need to do is start learning your minor scales, which are, it's basically exactly the same as your major, just that your your third is 1 fret lower, a semitone lower. So okay, you got your majors and you got your minors all over. Now the interesting thing is when you start playing in a band, you notice you very rarely have to play the full chord like when you're accompanying yourself or accompanying someone just one guitar, then yeah, you need to do that. But when the bass player is taking care of the low end and you've got maybe a keyboard player playing high up, your guitar is predominantly a mid-range instrument. So what I found is really useful is breaking the chord down into like little subsets. Okay, so you take these 3 strings, which is already a G major to begin with. Okay, so let's say take G as a chord. So you have one here, then you have one here, then one here, here, and here again. Okay, so that's your G. Then let's take a C. That's one here. Yeah, and then you go over to the next set of strings. Again, your C is that sort of thing. And if you just learn your majors and your minors across these 3 strings, the good thing is what happens then is suppose you got a chord progression which is like, say you're playing D, A, and G. You can play the same thing like, oh, you just made like 10 different ways you could play it here in different areas of the neck. So if this frequency range is already occupied by some other instrument, you can play the same thing higher up, or that sort of thing. So it kind of helps you find, at least as a sessions guitar player, when you're playing rhythm parts, where to voice your chords. And also like in terms of building further from the tri, let's take your D. Okay, so you've got a, now you can play it with a D root note with this, with, you just start pulling different, or the other way around is where you take your D bass note, that sort of thing. You're thinking like a piano player. So like pretty much with your right hand, think of your thumb as the left hand of your piano player, a very simplified version of it, and these as the right hand, at least when it comes here. So these 2 strings you take care of with your thumb, and these 3 with or even these 3, and then like suppose you can, and it's really nice, at least with writing music, if you're able to like analyze your chord, and at least with communicating with other musicians, saying, can you give me telling a piano player, can you give me a C chord with a G bass or something, which is how I normally communicate. If you actually analyze it, it will be a G, be some name to it. But at least if you can split the the chord into that. But I think guitar players always tend to be behind like keyboard players in terms of like they've got 10 fingers on 10 notes at any given point of time. You know, you've got 6 strings. But the advantage of, I think, being a guitar player is you can get a little bit more expressive, just in terms of like being able to bend notes, like, and the vibrato. I think because uh, the, the the instrument that everyone connects with first is the human voice. So every solo instrument or like in that sense tends to emulate the human voice. So the closer you can get to, you know, and also as a guitar player, if you listen to vocal melodies and also the way vocalists phrase, they always have to take a breath. So there'll always be a pause, and where they take that pause and how they come back in and stuff like that, that's worth listening to. And just spending time figuring out why different notes work over different chords, even though that note may not necessarily be in the chord. Why does that note, like if I have a D and I superimpose or we'll just set different moods. So and I'm still like, that's currently musically what moves me right now, just to like figure out just old like say Broadway tunes from the 30s and 40s and stuff like that. Some beautiful writing with regards to the chords. Like the My Fair Lady soundtrack, for example. There's a really nice song called "On the Street Where You Live," and I think that's the good thing about growing up in my house. I was just exposed to all this music non-stop, whether it was like the latest stuff or something like from 50 years back. It was all equally valid. There's nothing about like, oh, we only have to listen to this because that's what we're into now. I think 30 years from now, dubstep is going to be like how we consider classical music or something. I don't know. But I guess also as a musician, if you uh, are not really consumed by following trends and just aim to leave behind something timeless, that's because you'll be there and gone, and the only thing that'll be left behind is like the music that you've written. So if you do manage to make something timeless, I think that's pretty much like one of the best things you can hope for as a musician. Thanks.